Let me ask you guys,
That's all good.
episode 79. How did you guys feel about the chapter in general before we hop into anything specific? Because I thought it
Man,
was
I
one of
just
the better
I
chapters
just
since he
had to
came
go look
back.
at it again because I was just like, man, which one was that? Because for
The
obvious reasons.
latest,
But
yeah, the latest one on Line Webtoons. It's the one
yeah. So
where
okay.
White
So
stabs Bam in the hands. And Go ahead.
honestly, I mean, we kind of already knew some of this, but I did like the death that it
Hmm.
gave to White in some of the situations. I'm still a little confused on the prospect of how Bam emanates this. I guess that still doesn't like make 100% sense to me,
Yeah.
but I do like the chapter a lot.
A little something like Eenie, meanie, right from the beginning. Smoke a little pack, but the pack never timid. Church, but I'm seeing it. Curse when I'm winning. She need a new back when it's back, I'ma bend it. Slap up some guinea, ask me to hit it. Watch a nigga black slipper yak, I'ma quit it. Swerve in the Benzie, perfume is Fendi. Bob and move fast, real fast like I'm Ricky. Just cause I'm pretty, came from the dirt. Showing up a nigga can't handle the work. Ooh, y'all, swing with it first. Young white girl like a ramble.
But yeah, I just don't. I don't know. Like Bam doesn't like. It doesn't make sense to me because he's saying like Bam's eyes are unchanging,
Hmm.
but like I don't. I've never really felt like that in this series. It'd be one thing of Bam, which is always like the cool, calm type that never like, but like he gets angry, like he gets really sad. Like I don't know what this unchanging is because his father is nothing like that. His father is constantly the same. He's a constant. He's like he never too up, too down, too sad. Yeah, in fact, he's like unimpressed or unamused most of the time,
Hmm.
just uninterested. But Bam is nothing like that.
Fair enough. What's up, cousin? You good, man? What you doing over there? Here's what I would say about that, because I think I agree with you, and I think there was somebody in the chat that was going back and forth with me at one point about it, and I think the point is well taken. But I think you have to look at this. I know we're kind of giving SIU a pass, but we're gonna have to look at this through the windows of White's eyes, right? And his what's the discussion? There's a follow up discussion from the last chapter, the latest chapter in Line Webtoon, chapter 79. Season 379. The three things I want to talk about is like the inferiority complex thing with Liborg and White. I want to talk about Bam's random comment about do people feel like this when they fight him. I want to talk about I think it was Miles that asked this. I think it was a great question. He had asked if I thought that basically SIU took White and made him into the role that Karaka was initially intended for. Because I never thought about it that way. Because White is now the like Slayer and F.U.G that's constantly on Bam's head. I know Karaka went to get White on the train and everything like that, but Karaka's kind of character shift was really jarring and kind of out of nowhere, and his role became so much different. I wonder if because of the Master Connection, SIU felt that it was better to go down that route and make White the kind of everlasting predator, if you will. So, yeah. So those are the things I want to talk about. I thought it was. I honestly have been thinking about it for a while because I think there's probably some truth there. Because I do feel like in some ways,
Yeah, I
well,
agree.
yeah, what Karaka was supposed to be kind of doing is what White is doing right now. Because remember when Yuri said that Karaka is gonna be like her like greatest enemy if she doesn't like destroy I don't feel none of that anymore right now. But we'll get to that later. But we're just gonna kind of wrap up briefly how we felt about the chapter, like the TLDR version. Then we'll get into it because I never got to talk about this with him. I don't know if East still is around, but I never got to talk about them. But I think that what White is troubled by with Bam is that Bam has been able to amass this level of power without having to do something extremely diabolical, something extremely menacing. You don't have to destroy two kingdoms, eat a billion souls, stain his hands in the mud. Bam still has his quote unquote humanity, his soul, if you will, intact. So even though he's gotten all these powers, where White was like, I had to create this spell, absorb my very siblings into myself, and then constantly feed on the literal like human battery essence of people, their souls, if you will. So that's why I think that White is so fucking bothered. I do think your irregular point is well taken. And thank you for all the gifts, Yak. Holy shit. I appreciate that. White is just mad, Bam didn't have to be corrupt. Yeah, for the most part. But like, what do you think about what I had to say just now? Through his eyes, through his
I,
lens.
I I think that's a very good way of looking at it, and there is some truth to that. I guess if I try to really simplify it for myself,
Hmm.
because it's not like White has seen every side of Bam.
Yeah.
It's really hard because I feel like SIU does this a lot, but I just don't necessarily feel like he just like write it well is the wrong word. He doesn't project it well to the viewer that this is very specific to like White's personal because like as the viewer, we see all these different sides of Bam, and we see like everything that he goes through. Someone white says something like this, I'm just kind of like, huh? What are you talking about? But maybe to him, maybe that is true because he's only seen him when they initially met on the dollar show, that, and a couple more times here and there. So, but every time he sees him, he like amasses more power. He's constantly getting himself the ability to do what he needs to do. So, yeah, I guess that makes sense.
I hear you. The somewhat remorseful side of White Hulkling is something I never picked up from his character. It makes sense though the more I think about it. But see, I think that's ties us to what Vince is saying. This even we can even tie it back to the Karaka kind of having a certain level of jealousy toward Bam, and you can say that maybe he was acting away towards Todd and Sung because maybe he was like, bro, you like moved on and you think this guy's so great, like what happened to me? It's never unbelievable, but he never did a good enough job portraying that throughout the narrative, whether that's through illustration, text, a combination of the two, to make me really believe that. It's not crazy when you think about it, but it's like, what did you actually do to show that? And that's usually where the disconnect comes a lot of the times, because I would add this. When it comes to Bam and White, and part of the reason why, what's up, Cool Cash Mafia, what's going on? The other Simi. I would argue this, like Bam, like you said, we have seen all sides of Bam, but White, every time he probably sees Bam, Bam is just stronger. But Bam is not a bad person. The way I kind of use a kind of real life analogy like this because it's human nature in a lot of ways, and I understand why White feels the way he feels. I actually thought it was a good moment. Think about somebody. I'll use myself as an example. Let's say I'm in this company, and to get to the top, yo, I have to shake some ass, man. I have to shake some ass to move up the corporate ladder, if you will. Thank you for the follow, if you will. And I'm in a good position. I like where I am. Things are going well. But I watch somebody rise to those ranks, getting towards me, getting to my level, or past me, and they did none of those things. Not a single one. And get to my level. Now I want them to actually have to lose something to gain something. See what I'm saying? Like, I think White is just really bothered by that. But I'm with you when it's like, where did that come from? and the only rationalization I can make is that there was a comment that Karaka made about when White is more complete, he's more mature. So maybe this is White with all of his mental, his physical, his emotional, spiritual, all of that is at is working at its peak. And now we're getting to see how his inner workings actually function. That's the best excuse I can find, but I don't think he showed it well throughout the webtoon itself. He didn't.
I agree with you, and I agree with that. Here's the thing about Tower of God, right? Like you said, just to piggy off the point you just made, it's never unbelievable. Because if I sat there and I talked to somebody about kind of like the headspace SIU was in to write this, but then I look up examples in the actual story that make me more confused. For example, if I could take us back a little bit to when White became complete in the first place, or complete. I don't know how to call it. Like, this is like some fucking Cell type shit. But when he made the deal with the final clone for them to fuse together, they cut a deal. I'm still not 100% what the deal was, but there were times in the deal where you heard her voice in the text, where she's like, "What are you doing? We agreed to do this." And like now she's like gone. Her presence has been erased. And I'm not sure.
I think that's not
what I'm supposed.
I think that's how the spell works, though. I think they lose their sense of individuality over time. I can't remember though, off the top of my head.
Right. Then what was the deal? Was just then to help Bam, and then for that one time on the train, and then that was it. And then she lost herself, and then he took back over full position.
Yeah. I guess it's Cella better villain than Miriam is my hottest take. I'm mad at that, but that's a good point. It's hard. It's just hard because again, I just think that he needs to do better with the when we like again. These not to go back. I know a lot of people have a hard time with Game of Thrones. No one's mad that Daenerys did what she did. It's just how did we get here? Was it seamless? Did you build it up well, right? We're just like, wait a minute, why is she doing this now? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, no one would be mad that Daenerys had this kind of thought process towards King's Landing and whatnot. Like we get it. It all makes sense. She's been through a lot too, and fuck the queen. You know what I'm saying? And that place is awful. But it's just like, how did we get here? We've made so many leaps and jumps without actually properly getting there
I,
throughout the proper course of
I
the
feel like
story.
this is only a struggle for people like us who think of like every side of every little thing.
Hmm.
I feel like people who just kind of take a lot of these things as like individual moments or just individual things, they
Uh,
don't seem to like struggle with how this stuff is written. Cause like I'm constantly thinking about like why are people looking at me like I'm crazy when I say stuff like this?
right?
Like we haven't seen this stuff before, like or done better in certain other mediums or genres and stuff like that. They're always looking at me like I'm insane
You're
and that I'm
not
making
reading.
yeah, that I'm the one making some type of leak of logic to say that like this wasn't displayed the way that he thought it was. And
Hmm.
I always feel like, oh, people are just like looking like, oh, I'm thinking too hard that I should just take all of this like at face value. Karaka was jealous at Bam. Boom. That's all there is to it. Wipe your hands of it. That makes sense, right? Good. That's all you need to know. But I'm just like, but wait, like everything in like Tower of God is like has that like kind of for me. It's like, but wait, that's everything. Almost everything that happens is almost a but wait. It's been better recently, but
Hmm.
yeah, that's part of the problem. But not to get too much off topic, but what you said about White replacing Karaka, I never thought about it like that. And
Hmm.
now that you said that, that 100% makes sense.
Like it's
Maybe
hard to
he,
unsee it, right?
yeah.
Yeah. Nah, I feel
I
you.
think at one point he wanted that,
Hmm.
but I guess he either didn't know how or didn't have a reason to connect Karaka and Bam like that when White was already there. Maybe he messed up when he put two Slayers there at the same time and didn't deal with the other one.
I often wonder maybe if was Holquin ever supposed to even make it out that arc initially. Like, there's so many things that I think about now that the question was asked. Because I do think it's interesting. Because when I really think about it, I'm like, no, like White, like the position that I probably like. Okay, things happen and in the story, and people's allegiances and whatnot can change. But in my mind, this is kind of what I felt like Karaka would have been doing to Bam at some point. Like kind of chasing him like this everlasting, like a apex predator stalking its prey or something like that. So that's how you didn't plot this shit out. I'm yeah, I'm
Oh, we don't
shocked,
know. We don't know. We don't know yet. Like we just
stunned. No, I feel you. Like you said, flabbergasted, gobsmacked. But no, like it's hard. It's kind of hard for me to unsee it because when I like, especially, do you remember how initially menacing Karaka's introduction to
yeah,
the king was?
exactly,
Like
exactly.
menacing, dark, moves by himself. Like you would think that him and Hadjin Sung, their relationship deteriorated naturally as a result of whatever the fuck. It had not that had anything to do with Bam because Hadjin Sung would be like, "Yo, Bam, blah blah blah, don't do this," and he would immediately defy him and be like, "I don't give a fuck about that." Parkin or whatever. Vaflejo, go do what you got to do, go deal with that, and then he's chasing White to make White a Slayer again and blah blah. And I think at some point when he was doing that, I think he had a decision to make, and I think he thought to himself, you know what, I could use this Hadjin Song and Bam connection down the line to make them work together or something. And I think somewhere around there he might have changed his mind on which Slayer he wanted to use. So that's my best guess, but it is very hard for me to unsee it now that I think about it. I'm like, no, I can see maybe him be like, you know what, I could use White for this instead of Karaka.
Yeah, I just wish he could have protected himself better if he did a little bit more giving the reader stuff to infer.
Hmm.
Because like I had no reason to think that, for example, Karaka was jealous of Bam. Like
Or
this
even
stuff
liked
with White,
Hadjin Song. He said, I don't
yeah,
trust
like this
people.
stuff
I don't eat people.
this
I'll
stuff
take my
with White was
mask off. But
definitely
go
more
ahead.
believable.
Yeah.
No, yeah. My bad. This stuff with White is definitely more believable.
Hmm.
But like here's for example, here's something that I would have did that I thought could have made sense, right?
Hmm.
You could have used Reflejo because Reflejo was on Caracas side, right? Correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So what he could have did is he could have inferred to Caracas like jealousy or inferiority to Bam using Reflejo. If he could have planted the seeds of that a lot earlier, so when it happened, it wouldn't have seemed so crazy. He could have been like, oh, like not. I mean, you don't want to straight up be like, oh, you're the reason that like Karaka don't talk to fuck it. Like that sounds crazy. But
Mm-hmm.
like he could have been like, you know, Bam, like you're the one causing like a split between or Haji Sung changed his mind and then Bam would be like, what are you talking about? And he'd be like, you don't need to know. Like or something like that. It could have been some little key stuff here and there you could have did to make this all like shape up better. And also it's just that it's not even like, obviously we say like Karaka doing this, but it's like he could have transitioned it better
Mm-hmm.
or made Karaka seem like
Thank you for the follow. Mm-hmm.
Karaka keep his personality a lot more like stable to what we knew. Like if Karaka could have been on Bam's side, but still kind of been like instead of doing this like, oh I understand him a little bit better. He could have been like an even kill because always the vibe I got from Karaka too is that he was funny, like low key funny,
But he
the
was
little
super
conversation.
pragmatic, right?
Yeah, right, and he was super calm. Like he could have just kept it like. Now Karaka kind of seems emotional. Like he kind of seems like he make emotional
Like,
decisions.
Paul, that wasn't part of the deal. I'm like, bro, what? Like, who is this? It's not Karaka. Like, who is this? No, I feel you. I totally feel that with
Yeah, like, or if he was emotional, he could have been like this fucking kid. Like I make plans and you just ruin them. Like,
Yeah. Well,
like,
yes, when they pull up on Yama and he just started, Bam just said, I fuck what you talking about, Karaka. He just started going off, doing his own thing. And I'm like, bro. I'm like, Bam is the leader. It's not you, Karaka. He's the leader.
yeah, it could have been just little stuff like that I feel like a better writer would have did. It like people act like that's like the worst criticism in the world, but I just feel like that's fair criticism. It's just like a better writer could have made this more serious. But anyway,
Oregon. Hmm?
uh,
Yeah. Hmm.
we're good now. But yeah, the stuff that White's doing, I like. I thought White added another stuff to the art. But back to a particular question, I think I asked you like I don't know, like a month or two ago now.
Yeah.
It probably wasn't that long. It probably wasn't 2 months, like a month ago now. My problem is I think it would be a very jarring decision, and but also I don't know how it's gonna play out. Could you have Bam beat White here and then somehow fight Caliban back to back like that?
I don't like that. Here's my. I won't lie to you. I'm worried about White. I don't know if I. Part of me is like, does he get out of this arc? I really hope he does because I want him and Aryahan to have a confrontation. Hold on. Yeah, I said Crocker didn't check the fine print of the agreement. Crocker got pushed aside so easily. He really did. I'm just hoping that he gets a moment in this arc. It's like I said, I'm holding on. Yo, and by the way, Chad be bullying me. You're like, yo, he's down horrendous to be bullying me, bro. With Doan and shit, because they know I catch that Doan. They're like, yo, that's your guy? They on my head. And Nado was like sending me pictures of Karaka, like, getting poked by Urek or carried by child, shit like that. I'm like, look at
That's
this
terrible,
fucking,
bro.
look at this. You guys be torturing me, man. But, here's what I'll say to that. No, I don't think so. And I don't even think that, I honestly am at the point that I don't think that Caliban and Bam might end up really confronting each other to that degree for the remainder of this arc. I think Bam's antagonist for this arc is actually going to end up being White. I think like Bark is actually going to give Caliban real issues, real problems. So I think that's going to be like a legitimate like fight. But what I'll say this, I do think that's going to happen with White is I don't think White is going to, I don't know if he loses or whatever, but what's going to happen is I think after this confrontation, it's either Bam somehow won through nonsense ass pulls and just Bam shit. Two, F.U.G actually gets mad at White because of the usefulness and that Bam actually has as an irregular, and plus he proves himself in this war from what he's done for the success of getting Hajin Sung back and even being able to maybe fuse his powers and actually compete with White and stuff like that. Like, oh no, we need him, and maybe they punish White. They punish him as an organization. I don't know if they're gonna seal him, lock him away or make sure he can't do certain things, but I can see something like that happening, or I honestly think that he can end up just being like sealed away or something like that. So that's kind of what I was gonna say. But I'm gonna say this real quick about the Karaka thing. I don't even think that he had to go that far. He just had moments of introspection where Karaka is sitting down, looking kind of somber, with a memory of Hajin Sung or something, or his training, or uses a move, and maybe he's like, "This is a move that man taught me," and then I don't want to use it anymore. Like, there's just so many things he could have done. He didn't have to go that far. He could have easily just done small little things there to make, like, for example, one of my favorite moments in Water 7 and One Piece is when Kaku comes to the ship, and then he's checking it out, and Zoro's sleeping. Zoro wakes up and goes, "Huh? Usopp?" Because he sees the nose. He's like, "Oh." He's like, "Oh, no, like, I'm a carpenter." And Zoro's just like, "No, you're not." What? No, that's a very simple throwaway line that you don't have to think about, right?
Yeah.
But what was Kaku actually? A CP9 member. So Zoro had enough introspection just by that one confrontation, and he said a one little giveaway line that has context after the situation itself plays out in full. That's all SU had to do. He didn't have to go that far. like a lot of great writers have moments like that where you're like, oh, this line from 13 chapters ago now it makes sense. That's all you have to do.
Yeah. Yep.
Hold on.
That's all I'm asking for. That's all I be asking for. It's like little lines that, cause like I'm not even asking for like big foreshadowing or anything like that. But yeah, it's the little stuff or a little flashback or like a little thing that like later down the line you're like, oh, okay, he was telling us the entire time. Like that's the little stuff that makes this stuff great. But yeah, definitely for that.
Yeah. I think White will get a confrontation with Arya. If he doesn't, that's whack. I wanted the one to be a fire-ass antagonist, but instead she's done with effing bricks. I hate it here. I really hope that Bam gets a few new licks in and loses and someone saves him. Fair enough. I know. Yeah, I know. I used the word asshole. I'm discussing with myself. That slipped out, man. I meant a lot of plot contrivances and conveniences that end up protecting Bam and giving Bam power up so that he could win the confrontation. But yeah, what's up, East to West, man? Drop in. What this game has a lack of three. This game has a lack of the 3Ks. Karaka, kind of Caliban, where they at? Kind of see White getting disqualified instead of losing to Bam. I can see it. Oh, there are rules of the game that the administrator had like made, so maybe he does something. That's true. That's a good point. But I think Aguero, the regulars like Aguero and stuff, and Rack will have like something to do at some point because even Hatsu got to have his moment, you know. So I think it'll happen. I cannot wait for the Caliban High Lightborg stuff. So that's gonna be do. Kaku was funny. That's my guy. That's my favorite CP9 member. Well, it was him and Kumadori. But yeah, it could have been something as simple as that. But back to what we were saying. Yeah, I don't know but White. I'll ask you this: How have you felt about White as a character since SAU's come back from his hiatus? You think he's been kind of the highlight MVP, the most intriguing thing? I'd argue it's between him and Yasuo.
He's tied with Yasaracha
Okay,
for me
with
because
yeah.
it's kind of funny. Yeah, I should have used this. Yasaracha is probably the best example of the stuff that I'd be wanting for like Karaka. Of example, look how he's written Yasaracha. Look how he's used his subordinates to tell you about his character and what type of person that he is.
He's a beast tamer.
Yeah, and but he's showing you like Yasaracha despises you being a hypocrite. Like he just like, no, you don't care about people. You don't care about this. He's also very cunning. It's like, yeah, he probably knows what the fuck going on, but he gonna let you make the choice. He's gonna let you make the decision because he already knows how it's gonna plan out. Like that guy, like his whole airs and everything he's done about him has been just so well done. And then he's also used, some of the other people and even with stuff with the dog, he's like an exact opposite of the dog. And he's done and SIU's done everything in his power so far to show you that. Like, and I thought that was, and also just like when we think about like cats in general, if you think about like how like the Egyptians thought cats were gods and stuff like that.
Yep.
And it's just like it kind of gives you a little bit of that with Yasura characters too. It's just like he's almost like the all-seeing eye or something.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So it's been really good with that.
Yeah, I feel like if White got disqualified, who's that?
Panzu's back, baby.
Oh, what's up? What's going on? I feel like if White got disqualified, that would be a letdown. Unless Bam actually strategized to try and pull that off, then in that case, I would probably like it, to be honest. I agree with that. Like if he somehow did something intelligent to get the administrator involved, even if it's just to send him back inside the cat tower, so he has to find another mouse or something, and then now he has to deal with other things. Because I do think at some point, because I think they're trying to somewhat set up White versus like the rules of the tower. Like he keeps fighting against all of these like goblins and whatnot. Do you think the guy, the dark skinned dude with like who's like part of the spell? I think his spell is somewhat has some overlap. I wouldn't say similar. Has overlap with White spell. So I do think they're gonna have some type of confrontation at some point. So if somehow Bam does that and he's back inside the cat tower, or that guy's in there, maybe they have their little fight. Though I still think White will come out on top at the end of the day, and maybe what happens is he absorbs back that one girl, and then or all the other pieces. We'll see. We'll see. But yeah. At the end of the day, though. Oh, you said White's MVP easily? Yeah, I'm with Vince though. I think it's like between him and Yasaracha. I would give Yasaracha the slight edge only because this is a personal thing. Um, I had so much. I really liked Yama. Like you have to understand that without Yama, I probably would not have read through season 3 the way that I did. Like he was saving this shit for me. I liked him. He was multifaceted. I loved the Shinsu passive, the concept of the fear thing, the fact that he was going at an elder. Him like this guy is it. This is this kind of Slayer I wanted to see for so long. He's that dude. And the Ash Patcher said, "Yeah, you're not that guy, pal." And I was like, "Oh, I was hurt. I was hurt." So like, yeah. So I feel it. How do I feel about Bam since season 3 returning? I feel the exact same. I have no changes. No changes in how I
Yeah,
feel about him.
yeah.
The exact same.
What about Bam as like I don't know. Nothing really changed. I mean, he has his changes obviously, but since the beginning of 3, what is nothing's changed? Not really.
Yeah.
Since 3 started.
Bonzu, what do you think about I hope I remember who said it right, but I think it was Miles who said this, but he basically said that. Do you remember how Karaka was somewhat initially introduced as very menacing, evil, somebody that was gonna constantly oppose Bam?
Mm-hmm.
Do you
Wait 2 seconds.
yeah? Do you think
Two
that is
seconds.
you say wait a second?
I say 2 seconds. I'm
Oh,
coming
okay,
back.
yeah,
I
yeah,
just taking some.
yeah. Do you think? Can't disagree. Just want to see. Yeah, fair enough. Yasaracha's been interesting so far. Yeah, because one thing about Yasaracha, like Vince said, is that through the flashbacks of Haracha and Kendrick, you're still seeing him and what kind of leader he is, how he likes to dominate other species, and things, and what kind of cunning maniacal person that he actually is, and that he can even see into the people's nature to some degree. He's like, no, you want to dominate animals. That's what you want to do, Kendrick DL. Like he really understood that. And I'm like, it's crazy because I got that feeling. I remember I'm like, why is this guy's backstory so long? Like it wasn't even bad, but we're like, it's really lengthy. And then I was like, oh, I think this isn't even about Haracha himself. This is about Yasaracha and how he operates and what he does. So yeah.
Yeah, to the flashback, we learn more about yeah, how is Yaracha as a character, because the thing about the first there's really good stuff that you said, because right now I put all the things in perspective. I couldn't understand why every flashback of this character was so long.
Hmm.
I was thinking to myself, I I know that they were about to die, but I was thinking back then when yeah, it's just a way to show us how the tower is and how some stuff like this can be represented in our world. You know what I mean? Sometimes you have to take a choice. With the first flashback, sometimes you have to take a choice. Or you're this, or you're that. Or taking everything on yourself, bringing, taking all the burdens of your people or the people that you love on yourself is bad. My Hero Academia,
Hmm.
with All Might, he did the same thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He did the same thing. That's how I was seeing stuff, like trying to bring some lessons, and how some people do thinking that they are doing something good, they block themselves, the inner stuff. Like the other one stopped using his legs just because he wanted people to do stuff for him in his place. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But the first thing that humans brought to evolution was the fact that they could step up and you have legs to move on, so they can use their hands to do other stuff in place to gravel on the ground. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's the thing that Yasha said. You must one of the things that show that you're superior to these beasts. You don't use it to show you're thinking this is your way to show your power. Human or interesting. That was, and no, when what you said, every every flashback was a way to yeah, characterize Regaracha as a character, how it, and damn, you just blew my mind right now, really. I'm just like having all these things, all these thoughts right now. But yeah, and the fact that you said that the character will be always the enemy of Bam, I think that this situation right now with Jin Sung Ha will bring things forth, literally.
I'm gonna get back to that in a second, but well
Mhm,
said. If
mhm.
SIU gives Karaka the most epic comeback, I would jump on my chair. Oh, listen. I'm a pop big.
Damn,
I might just throw my laptop. I don't know what I'll do, but I might just do something. Do I think that
damn to
Ari
make
Han
her
saw
dance.
White's future on
Damn
some
to make her.
jihad ish and decided to say what he said to him? Um, I would surmise that Arihan said to him because he said, "You, if you want to surpass me as a combatant, you can't go any conventional route. You have to become some type of monster." So I think that's why he ended up going with the spell and absorbing his siblings and doing what he had to do. And at this point, I'm sure he wants and thinks he needs the soul of an irregular to take that next jump. I don't know what it would mean for him to consume an irregular soul, but it's easy for me to surmise that Bam's soul by itself would give him more power or juice or whatever, replenish his mana more than even the a billion souls, the soul force that he did from the two kingdoms he built up, and even the soul room on the floor of death. I think Bam's soul by itself is stronger than all of that. Not a single soul he's ever eaten, no matter how strong that ranker, high ranker, or regular was, is gonna be as fulfilling as the
You really
soul
think that?
that
Yeah,
Bam
it's
has.
because this is a tower. Because literally, I would have thought that maybe that these the souls of irregulars maybe are so. Maybe that's why they're so special because their souls are like nothing. I would say, but maybe because the way that they talk about the regulars and about them is that he is like a black hole that can take everything. And maybe I think that White must can or will have a taste of his soul, and he will be even disgusted by it because the fact that he's a black hole that absorb anything, it's like eating air. It will be like he's eating air. That's why I think literally because that the concept of Bam is associated with the Knights and associated with the yeah the fact that he's a black hole. Everything that he does is linked to the fact that he's absorbing everything. No light comes from his place. And the name of Rachel was Michelle Light. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there is some stuff there. I don't know, but there is something. I think that she is cooking something else.
Vince.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about the inferiority complex part because I think it's interesting. So
Oh.
she was commenting on the inferiority complex of White and Liboric, and I'll give my little speech here, and then you tell me why you think it's significant or not, because I actually think this part here has actually been kind of consistent. Do you agree with what you said earlier with like what is Bam actually doing himself to like make people think about these other irregulars? Because I don't know if you initially remember when the door opened, Evan and Yuri ran to the first floor through the middle area because like yo, an irregular came and they saw him. They're like, what? Like, like what is this? This is nothing like Urek. Now I'll surmise that maybe because he was just so new and he had to learn so much about the tower, he just did not give off that presence. And I would argue that their perception of him as an irregular has definitely changed, especially with Flora Delta stuff, because now he's doing things that they can't even do, like use Shinsu. When Helljo was like, no more Shinsu for y'all, right? And he could still use that, has the thorn, things of that nature. Like he's proven himself in that way. But a lot of people who are very familiar with irregulars or an irregular or is a part of that family tend to always say that Bam reminds them of the family head. For example, Macheni said this, it reminded me of my father, right? And now you're seeing the thing with White. So like I actually think this has been consistent. I'm not sure what the literal trigger is, but they do seem to always see their own father or some irregular through the lens of by looking at Bam through their own lens. So here's what I'm going to say. Lyborg is a part of ten great families. You know how these families can be, they can get. The Kun family, you kind of have to fight for superiority. You gotta be strong, and you know how Gustang is all about like, proving yourself, and you gotta be smart, want to be part of his division and whatnot. I don't know if Lyborg has that inferiority complex like, the same way White does because their dad is so great, so powerful, so it's like this insurmountable wall they could never reach. And with Lyborg, this can be maybe related to some of the stuff he's dealt with the family. I argue that because he's a half breed, maybe he was never accepted by both sides. Just the same way that some biracial kids have trouble with one or both sides of the family. You know, they always say like, I was too black for the white kids, but not black enough for the blah 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 stuff, shit like that. So I think that could have played into it. Maybe it could be his role in the army, his relation to Adori. I don't know, but with White, it obviously ties back to the fact that his dad is so strong. His dad is quote unquote never changing, and Bam amassed all this power as an irregular without having to corrupt himself. So what do you think about that in general, Vince?
For your first part, talk about Laborg. I agree. That's the point I was gonna make as well. I said it could be that with
Mm-hmm.
the mixed point that you made, that it's just like he could be in a very weird circumstance because he's from two major families, and maybe because of that, he doesn't excel in either of the family's nature and or power because of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so because of that, even though he's made it high up the ladder, maybe he had to do that through unconventional means or means that they or think are unbecoming of somebody in his position.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the other thing I was thinking of it, I mean, the inferiority could come from just from his rivalry with Caliban, because Caliban is like pure, pure like pure power, pure just like domination and stuff like that.
I mean, he
And from
trained a
what I've
lot. He's
seen,
kind of self-made.
yeah, and what I've seen from Luboric and from like Yasaracha, they're like schemers.
Mm-hmm.
They do a lot of underhanded stuff. They do a lot of sacrificing of people. So just like they could be exact opposite. It also reminds me of you seen Durara?
Yes, I love that show. I love that show.
My boy Isaiah with what's his face?
Isaiah. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, because it kind of reminds me of that
And
because it just
his
like
sisters are raw, by the way. Just a side note. I like his
yeah,
sisters.
because he like Isaiah hated him because he was like that guy's a fucking monster. Like he's not human.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, but it's like Isaiah was competing with him even though he was fucking regular because of other things. So it could be that too.
Let me chat real quick. Let me see. If gets Bam sold, his hunger will be satiated. Would he gain Bam's plot armor? I know I asked you this question yesterday, but I'm curious about the other choices on which two great families they would pick if they were a hybrid. So if you're a hybrid like Liboric, which two families would you want to be a part of? I chose the Lopobia family because I'm like Kendrick, I'm like Yashracha, I like the dominate, I like the control shit. So I want to be controlling animals and have them do my bidding. I don't want to walk. I want to fucking fly in a dragon or some shit. And I'm athletic, and I'm more like a physical person. So Ha family for hand to hand. What two families would you want to be from if you're a hybrid?
Um, Probably the other Ari family. I don't know because I'm just interested more in them.
Okay,
And
Sharon's family.
yeah,
Mm,
Sharon's family. And if I had to pick another one, then probably the Coon family.
okay.
Just because elemental stuff and smarts, since they be very tactical.
What about you and Panzu?
Whew. So I have two combinations. I will be. I'm sure I love the sword. That's something that I always loved since a kid. So if there is a family that specialize in as blacksmith, like one of the Twinkle family has a blacksmith black team. I will be more part of that one,
Mm-hmm.
but I think I will be a coon, not maybe, but not sure. But it's more like a half family for the physical type. I always has too much power than I could handle. Let's say. My whole life was struggling about controlling myself, controlling myself like physically and even when because I was always speaking faster than I was talking. You know what I mean? That was most of the time that what
Mm-hmm.
I struggled with. So like it will be like more the physical type and that stuff, or and maybe the pedo family because they're all about knowledge stuff like this, and was a big part of me. So I think pedo and ha are Arie and pedo. Like so maybe so having the fact that I will be like a wave controller and a fisherman or scouts will be I think one of these two combinations will be the most typical for me.
Fair enough.
For me, I'll take uh, Lopopia,
You
and
just
I'll
pop in
take.
here like that. Hey man, what's up?
What's up? I mean,
What's
I've
up?
been here.
I know, but you ain't say
Just
nothing.
couldn't speak.
Why not?
Yo,
Hello, chat.
How you doing, brother?
Well, because I didn't read the latest chapter. I've been reading because apparently
He caught
I was
up.
cooking.
I've been there after that before. Caught up in the stream. Right, go ahead though.
And then, well, I'm still behind one chapter. And then plus I was cooking, so it was a bunch of background noise. So I've been listening the whole time.
Okay, bet.
But I take Kobe Dow because of their weight control abilities, but also because if I do it with the local beer, I also probably get special abilities because the staying all his kids are part of what's the are they the workshop or it's two of this workshop or something else.
yeah,
Whatever
That's
the whatever
the thing.
the
Yeah,
sta-
and I know what you're talking about. I can't remember the name for
yeah,
right now.
yeah, yeah. But a lot of his kids, I'm pretty sure a lot of his kids are special and experience stuff like that. So I probably have special properties that you wouldn't find anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good lord! So I went for a windstorm. Yeah, I probably had a lot of special properties and extra abilities that nobody else would have.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay.
mhm.
Um. Did you? But actually,
So,
East, while you're here, let me get your opinion on a couple things real quick. Did you? What did
Yes,
you think
sir.
about White possibly, and you two and Ponzi, give me thoughts on this after too. White possibly usurping Karaka's initial role as the kind of F.U.G. Slayer that was supposed to be chasing Bam. Because I actually think it was a really good point when I really thought about it. It's hard for me to understand. I'm not saying it's true. It's just hard for me to unsee in the sense that you remember how Karaka was initially portrayed and whatnot and everything. So essentially, do you think at some point SOU decided in his mind that it was better for White to play that role instead of Karaka? How do you feel about that?
I'll go first. I'll say this. Well, when I actually heard you say that on stream, I was actually taken aback. I was like, damn, you know what? That does make sense. But that goes back to how we say he could have always set this up better in the first place to do something like that. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying? So I do agree that that's probably what happened halfway through. And you know how he writes sometimes with some ideas, it just shifts it or shafts it, whatever have you.
Yeah.
So, and then, like I said, if he wanted, that was the case. As you can see, as it kind of does make that sense too, because they team up. They were teaming up kind of before, like okay, initially when White was weaker, and he was like, before he was fully whole, Quinn, they were kind of like, he was that antagonist, and they really hated each other, this, that, and other, along with Karaka. Then as White started gaining more power, you started to see Karaka fall back and fall back. By the time they got to the last station, you see Karaka do the full heel turn.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my master, this, that, and the other. Then White was really at the Bam's head at that point, because have they even been together before this? Before they just linked up just again? White was somewhere else then most of the time, right?
White doesn't actually have that many interaction with Bam. They worked on the same field at one point during the last station. I think, if I remember correctly, Bam attacked White and said, "I don't need your help," type beat. And he's like, "Anyways, relax over there." But they're not cool
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's more so like, well, let me use this plot line for them to make their relationship. I don't know where he was going with the whole Karaka thing because he just whole Karaka's character, but yeah, essentially, I do definitely agree that like White is playing a role that Karaka should play, and there's things behind going on that nigga brain that I don't know that happen behind the scenes, and we got here how we are. But I completely agree with that. No, all the evidence supports it. Essentially,
Mm-hmm.
as White became more dominant and more scary, then you had Karaka coming more heel turn and Bam butt buddy brother. So no wagon.
Fair enough. What about you, Ponzi? What do you think?
the thing about like we might be like we might be like getting set up like by CU, because right now this how it feels literally that we have like somebody that keep being there for like pursuing like Bam, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
But the thing about it, I have more feeling that White is more like a Hisoka type than Karaka. Karaka, for the moment, we don't know where he's going as a character, but if I can see what TU said for him happening still. You know what I mean? Because for the moment, Bam and him, even as character Karaka, he's linked to too many plot lines. Like he's linked to the Prince of Java, the Princess of Jahed plotline with the goat Gubagnan, and he's also linked to the fact that he, as a slayer, he has a target. So we thought till now we don't know who's his target, but we are thinking that it is the king himself.
Hmm.
So there is a lot of things that they are both associated with because Karaka, if they have the same target but not the same view about stuff, this might be clashing. That might be, and they're also the students from the same master. It's if something happens to the master or the master does something that is not that Karaka doesn't like, it might get might start the spark for that conflict. You know what I mean? So even in this war, we don't know what's can happening and what can. We might get Karaka the your good Karaka back for sure. But we have in this arc. There's every element for getting Karaka back. I will say because we get King Sunha, we get some people, we get even the white stuff that try to push um,
That's interesting to me because
Bam.
I would argue that they're too cool. They're too cool now for them to really have any more conflict moving forward. I don't think Bam and Karaka will ever have conflict moving forward. Honestly, I don't.
There's a thing that is that sense of comfort. I would say that they are too cool.
I don't even know if Karaka could
It's
beat this
not.
nigga. I don't even know if Karaka could
That's the
beat
thing
it.
about
So
that's the thing about it. It's too cool. Literally, it's too cool. That's weird even because it's so considered. Tio is not perfect as a human. You know what I mean? He's a human, so he's not perfect. So he might make mistakes. But for the
of
moment,
course, no one's asking for perfection.
we yeah for
Consistency would
sure.
be nice though.
That's facts. You know what I mean? And that's why it's weird thing about the guy who put some stuff in the beginning of the story since chapter one. There is stuff in the chapters of Power of God showing that he know what that he is know that he what he's doing. You know what I mean? So
You have more
eh,
faith in that man than I do. I can say that much. All right. So let's transition to the last thing I want to speak about, and then we'll wrap this up. And then when Simi is done, we'll hit the Mashal stream. Vince, you still here? I know you were deaf in that for before you here.
Absolutely, I'm still here.
All
I just
right.
like giving people time to talk, and also there was background noise, people ringing doorbells and shit.
So remember the line where Bam was like, "Every second that I'm fighting Bam feels like an eternity,"
Yeah,
and he's like,
what the fuck was going on?
is this how people feel when they fight me? Where the hell did that come from? Did that
I
line
didn't know that.
Bro, bro,
did
bro,
that
bro.
line not strike you as extremely jarring? Like that came out of nowhere. Like
This what I be talking about. He does this like once every like I don't know, give or take 5 or 6 chapters where he be doing shit. I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. What is he talking about? When did fighting Bam feel like an eternity? When did anybody say that?
That he tries to be people that he's fucked up, that he thought. That's weird. No, not that's not weird, but it's still like when you put random thoughts from nowhere in the story, it feels weird. As a human, you can feel stuff like this, but in a story, when you read stuff like this, it comes always from nowhere. So, and you said it is not the first time that something like this happened. You know what I mean? The first thought that I had, I was like, yeah, maybe it's true, but still, we'll flex. Okay.
but has anyone ever said that to him? Has he ever through the text or illustrations even from the opposite side, made it seem like it must be like an eternity fight. Like where did that come from? It's such a throwaway line that just one of those things he does. Where I'm like, why did you say that? There was such a weird line. I guess you could say Bam
Hey,
was looking back as why he
regulars,
is held in such
regulars that
regards.
are fighting him must feel like this, you know.
I don't know,
Like
man.
every regular that tries to
And
fight
not
him,
even
like
both are regulars or
to
something either. Like there isn't even that connection. So I don't know. I thought that line was extremely bizarre. I know it's probably not that important. It's not an important line, but it's hard for me to
sure.
unsee it. Hold on one second. East, are you there? I know you're muted. I don't know if you're listening and whatnot.
Hello.
Yeah,
Yes.
what do you think about that? Want me to repeat the
I was
question?
not listening. Yes, please.
So Bam has a line where he says, I have to basically he has to last 10 minutes, but he said that every second versus White feels like an eternity. Is this how it felt when people were fighting me? And I found that line extremely out of nowhere jarring. Like, what the fuck? Where did that come from? And why did you have that thought? And what? Isn't that a weird line? Like, what do you think about that line? I know I'm overthinking it, but just out of
Yeah.
curiosity.
Ah oui.
Huh?
Alors,
What? Where would this line have thought?
Oh
I'm
shit!
confused right
Oh,
now.
you were
Where,
saying
where would?
I forgot you said you didn't catch up or you were reading it. My bad.
No, no, but it still stands because I still know the full context of everything in the story.
Yeah.
All the only difference is they're just fighting. I know how this goes with Bam. So unless there was like a super new plot thread, but I can attest. I know Tyra got enough in the characters to understand that line because even they are fighting, this still doesn't explain where essentially he got this idea.
Yeah.
Like he had not once has he ever been the overpowering factor. All he did was level up here and through, where he's supposed to air quote underdog against White, and White's this overpowering force air quote. Although we know how it goes with Bam, it's still that this nigga has never been that menacing that he overpowered. He's that strong enough force like from start to finish. If anybody's strong enough, he usually just levels up or just pulls something that they never seen before because he's in a regular air quote.
How could a regular do this? See a
Yeah,
regular.
it's,
Always.
it's always that. It's always that beat. And by the time they realize that it's over, the fight is over with. The only exception to that rule would probably have been Jihad, and he's just like he already knew what that nigga was. So that's the only exception I can think of to where it's like, oh, it's that was an even fight. Any other time this nigga Bam has done that, it's always been, all right, it's done. All right, it's done. Whenever he kind of had to level up with somebody extremely stronger late in the latter half of the series, because the first part he was not really that impressive until
Well,
later.
yeah. Part one was Bam, literally the ball of potential, but he wasn't like the guy yet. But as Juvio Grace, he started to really make those steps and whatnot. But, yeah, she's crazy.
the thing, like about that sentence, like I told you, the thing that it's weird. It's weird. It feels weird because it's true. Just I know that if something like this happens, it's something like this might then happen to the regulars as it started with since the beginning, like when it started as Jubilee Grace. But the thing that we saw as readers, this never happened. You know what I mean? Never saw. I don't because nobody know that he's a. Most of the time, I feel like nobody knows that he's an irregular. Am I right or not?
Listen, there's a lot of times where they know he's an irregular and they still say it, or at the very least, they should know based on their position. Like, what are you doing? Like, I don't know about you. I need to know who was a regular in this tower so I can avoid the smoke. So I'm not trying to fight y'all. I'm not fighting no regulars, bro.
No. But right now,
Oh man.
so you think that he was stronger than Jurek when he was younger?
Do I think he's stronger than
Yeah.
Do I think he's stronger than Urek was right now? At this point in the tower, probably.
Okay.
I know there's a prevailing theory that Urek came into the tower as strong as he was. I don't believe that for a second. I think he had to learn like everybody else what the fuck Shinsu was and things of that nature. So,
He probably was just
Okay.
like a better like. He just probably had better like fighting instincts off the bat. Because like Bam literally didn't have anything. Like
Jurek was not a young kid. I think everything
Yurik
that
was probably already destructive as fuck. so it didn't
I
matter.
think he had a specialty.
Look, yeah,
I think every irregular has a specialty. Where Bam is Kirby, right? Copy ability, absorb everything, right? Um,
mhm.
I would argue with Urek probably it was maybe his ability to to throw Shinsu at the speed of light, which is why he's called the Ray Barracuda. So like, and a lot of the irregulars have feats that the other ones don't have. Let's take the top three real quick, right? Well, excluding Fanta. So let's take Enryu, Jihad, and let's take Urek. Urek has the record for climbing the tower the fastest. No one else has done that. Jihad is the king of the tower and has the immortality contracts and everything like that. And he kind of, unified the tower, so to speak. No one else has done that. Enryu has killed an administrator. No one else has done that. So a lot of times people come to me on some Urek came into the tower as strong as he was and didn't and that's how he flew up the tower. I don't subscribe to that theory, but I do think Bam is stronger than probably any irregular has been except Phantom Minim up until this point. At this point in the tower, I don't think that Jihad or anyone else was probably as strong as he was. They probably had different skills and different abilities that made them special and unique. But overall, I would argue no. I don't know. That's headcanon. That's just headcanon.
I mean, Bam. I mean, we don't know for sure, but but obviously, Bam's kind of had to be a little bit different
That's a
for
China,
the
so they were strong.
Bam's kind of had to be different because of just like the situation that's going on too. Like we don't know anybody else's situation. Like you probably, in some regard, you might be able to make an argument that Europe might have came in like the least chaotic time in the tower in some regards. So it's just interesting to think about. They all came in at different times, so who knows like what their opponent is and what they had to focus on, or just like what type of skills they needed exactly. Because another thing that makes Bam different too, one is just that Bam's like just pure destructive. Shinsu probably is the strongest of everybody, but I think you could argue probably that every other irregular was more skilled
Maybe
than
you're
him at this time
okay
period.
because Eurasia she can accelerate Shinsu and make you age somehow. So sit like
Yeah,
that. So yeah, that's not a bad point. I hear what you're saying. Like again,
yeah.
yeah, like from like a raw power standpoint, sure, but maybe they can do different things with it. That's kind of yeah. I agree with that. Hold on, Urek came into the tower with peak fuckboy energy. Oh shit. But there's one more thing I want to say about the chapter. Well, I guess I'll just end it with this, and then we'll wrap it up, and then yeah. But okay, what do you think could possibly happen to White in a negative standpoint? Like, do you do you think he might lose this fight? Like, and at the end of the day, do you think he could lose this? Because I have some really hardcore White fans who are like, yo, I swear to God, if Bam, no, they're like worried. They're worried, low key. So
I don't see any situation where he just straight up like loses a one on one. There's
okay,
gonna be There's gonna be shenanigans of some kind. Whether it be somebody else interfering, a disengaging of the spell, him getting kicked out. There's no scenario to me as of currently constructed where he just flat out loses a one on one. I just don't see that. But he definitely can lose. Now the question, I think the bigger question is, as far as negativity, does he DIE here or not?
oof.
And that I don't know. I really can't tell you because like you would think he survives this encounter, but I don't ever know what SIU's ultimate plan is because I don't know if he's looking at it from our standpoint that like, oh, he needs to see his father again. Like we need that interaction. Like I would think he need that, but I have no clue if that's what his final plan is. So I don't know, but I don't see nothing where he just loses it straight up one on one. There will definitely be shenanigans of some kind in play, but he might lose. I think it's 50-50 at this point.
What about you and Ponzi?
Oh, I'll go
Oh,
first.
oh, you go. All right, yeah. You just go, then you
Uh,
end it, and I'll wrap it up. Go ahead. You see.
I want to. I want to go back on Vince, like when he said he doesn't know what may happen. But I say if he does DIE here, then I think it will be to the effect that if we go with Miles, what Miles said, it could push Kuraka back into the forefront as a truly like prominent like actual character. You know who he once was to a certain degree, not whole gimmick he on right now and stuff like that.
I might.
Since they'll have Jing sent back and they won't have a reason to actually work together, he could just go about his separate ways. Like, now I'm back on my fuck shit. Unless he just chooses to keep them all holding hands with their master and going forward from here.
I don't think they're gonna have any more conflict moving forward because even Death Lady was like she seemed to have taken a liking to him. Remember Death Lady with the joke where like, oh, you seem to trust him and like him or whatever. Like I'm testing
Where to go at, man? Where to go at? Where's she at, man?
Yeah, yo, she to go. But yeah, but alrighty. Ultimately, I do think this was a good chapter. I think there was much more good than bad that was in it. We'll see what happens moving forward. I just never know what's gonna happen week to week. I'll be worried, but I'll end it with this, just because Karaka is my guy. He has this is his last chance, man. I can't do this to myself anymore. So if he don't get that moment in this arc, yeah, all the Slayers are mid, each and every one of them. Like all of them trash. I need you guys to go wake up loose like or something, because I can't rock with Yama right now. It's Neko season. Nya in this bitch. Word to Simi. It's Neko season.